Hello, welcome back and welcome in. My name is Nikki Wheeler. If you're interested in gaming, go subscribe to my other channel and follow my Twitch to see my gaming live. Now, let's start this video. Today, I'll be discussing My Chemical Romance, the iconic emo band taking the reign of the pop punk and alt-rock genres by the horns in the early 2000s. The band consisted of several members at the time of the breakup: lead singer Gerard Way, lead guitarist Ray Toro, drummer Bob Breyer, bass guitarist Mikey Way, and rhythm guitarist Frank Iroh. They have recently come back into the scene in 2022 with a single and a potential tour as they are performing at giant festivals like While We Were Young, but they haven't released any more music or a full album since that single. It is unclear if they will or even plan to, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. I wanted to go into their established work and talk about what made them so good and remain this driving force in the punk scene today. Starting with the first full-length album they released in 2002, a year after forming, I Brought You My Bullets, You Brought Me Your Love. This album brought in a lot of attention for the band from the 90s grunge and alternative fans alike and pushed the barrier of grunge officially being dead. The entirety of the album has its flaws and some skips for me, like Head First for Halos or Skylines and Turnstiles. There were a lot of songs that I liked though, those including Drowning Lessons, Our Lady of Sorrows, and Cubicles. The first song is about the hopelessness of being in a seemingly unending cycle of love and disappointment. The bridge of the song has the narrator metaphorically washing away their engagement ring with poison and kerosene, a sign of their impending demise. I love the song in particular, not only for that bridge, but the notable sound effects and backing track on it. It has so much vigor in the guitars and saucy drums. There was so much room to play in the song, despite the hollow-sounding title. In the end, it paints a picture of a person caught in a continuous cycle of despair. The second song I wanted to hype up was Our Lady of Sorrows. Personally, this one was an instant love because of the vocal fry in certain parts of the song, maybe even going into the screamo territory, along with the traditional post-hardcore backing track. It felt very original and unadulterated. The protagonist in the song is feeling hopeless and powerless, yet they are also determined and refuse to give up, and that feeling is in the vocals just makes it seem so much more genuine. The song is kind of a rallying cry to take control and to never give up on yourself. The last song, Cubicles, hit a little different as it tuned even more into the rock elements than the previous songs did. It focused on the loneliness and longing felt when a relationship ends. The chorus makes reference to the emptiness of a cubicle that they are surrounded by, which serves as a metaphor for the emptiness left by the person they no longer have in their life. The post-chorus speaks to the idea of being alone forever and not being able to find anyone to fill that vacant space. I think it was also one of the times I think the chorus was probably my favorite parts of an MCR song because it didn't feel like your typical chorus. It felt like a good way of explaining in a visual way without saying exactly what you mean, sending this message without saying anything. What I love most about this album is the more obscure and darker themes in the lyricism. They know how to be exuberant and introspective at the same time, which isn't groundbreaking as you had Nirvana and Creed as predecessors, but they were good at what they did and they did it in a candid way. It had a visual aspect to it, and it played into their poetic and emo ways rather than being too direct. Next, we have the second studio album, Three Cheers for Sweet Revenge. This is the album that truly put the band on the map to a mainstream level. We hear them delve more into the punk and drop some of the rock sounds while still tossing it around throughout. The first song I wanted to talk about was Give 'Em Hell Kid. This was a true pop punk anthemic song, encouraging the listener to never give in and keep pushing on even when times are rough. The song deals with themes of loss and resilience and speaks to the idea that no matter what, it's possible to come out stronger and make it through. The song serves as an optimistic reminder that life is worth fighting for and that even in the toughest of times, hope can be found. I love that it was a fast-paced track and followed one story all chronologically. It gives the album a good push forward and starts the album well, making what a lead track should be. This also isn't a knock towards Helena either, that track was great too, I just think that these two tracks should be switched. The next song I wanted to talk about was I'm Not Okay, I Promise. The lyrics capture the feelings of insecurity and frustration that often accompany being stuck in a depressive state or not feeling truly heard or understood, let alone helped by those around you. When you get into the chorus, I viewed this as a sign of strength, or them telling you it's a sign of strength when you tell someone that you are not okay. It feels like a direct message, which I did knock before in the last album, but I think it works more easily and is smooth in this iteration. It was also just a certain vibe I was going for with this album. You're like 5 songs into this album, and it just makes you want to start bawling. It seems a little unreal to want that, but it is more in tune to the actual introspection side that the last album had. The last song from this album that immediately caught my attention was Cemetery Drive. The lyrics depict the singer visiting a graveyard late at night and reminiscing on the physical and emotional connection they once shared. This is one of the main reasons why I love this song. It was a visual story and I had a perfect picture in my head. You obviously can picture this kind of gloomy graveyard and how they lament the loss of what they once had, but they also realize they can no longer find comfort in it now that it's gone. It's a downcast track for sure, and that combats with a few of the past songs, which is why I think I found it so nice, letting you hit all the emotions and maybe have a rock bottom moment. The really good thing about this album was visuals. It was so heavy in that category, and I believe what made it so successful, even through the worst songs. It had its high and some low-ass lows, which made you glide through this record. While it could clash in certain areas, I think it was a very good entry for the time period and officially solidified the band as a force with the punk and rock worlds. The next album, The Black Parade, is the big blow-up moment for them. While the previous album made a name for the group, the following album blew them to higher proportions than ever, having all types of people enjoying their music across the globe. Over half of the tracklist was a hit somewhere at some point in time, before or after the release of the album. Gerard Way takes on the roles of Mother War, the patient, and the doctor, setting up the rest of the album to be a journey through the patient's final 2 weeks of battling cancer. Now, starting with the song Dead, the lyrics talk about questioning whether someone gets what they deserve in the end, and if they go to heaven, wondering if that is even deserved too. The breakdown towards the end speaks about how life can be a joke and questioning why we laugh if it's not all just a big joke. The final line, "If life ain't just a joke, then why am I dead?" reflects the idea that if life isn't just a joke, then why does it lead to death in the end? I love the sort of philosophical aspect to the song. It's not necessarily introspective like the past works were, but it has a similar effect. Using the imagery and notations of death, it puts you into front of it as well, and allows you to reflect with them, and coming off the lead track at the end, it just intertwined perfectly and was made for a funeral playlist, to be honest. If this isn't playing at my funeral to announce that I'm dead, I don't want it. The next song I loved was Cancer. Obviously, as we talked about before, the whole story behind this album was about life and death in the final 2 weeks of a cancer patient. The lyrics paint a poignant picture of someone facing their own mortality as they battle cancer. In the verses, the speaker expresses physical discomfort and deteriorating effects of the disease on their body. The mention of chapped and faded lips convey the harsh reality of their condition. Throughout the song, there is a sense of resignation and acceptance of their fate, which just hit you right in the heart because it was the nail in the coffin, no pun intended. Apologies. It was the final straw for them after fighting for so long. It is the point in the song where you can start to break and crack if it's your first time listening. What I loved most about it was all of the song was the same tempo and beat. It didn't switch up and they kept it slow. It also had a heartbeat effect throughout that faded as the song came to a close, which was just a nice touch that makes you shed that final tear. The final song I liked was titled Blood, and is considered a hidden track as the first minute and a half is just pure silence. The actual song is about the same length as the silence that it had in the beginning, and it has a chipper feel to it, like it was recorded on a tape recorder or an old mechanical turn of some kind. This song is a bit of a dark comic relief after the album. The patient had just relived horrific experiences at the door of death, but in famous last words, makes the decision to persevere through life rather than accept his death. Now he returns to life and wakes up in the hospital under extensive treatment and sings a sarcastic tune about how, even though he chose to live, life kinda sucks. Like stated before, it has a chipper 1920s-esque tune, and I think that's what made it so special and different. While I would talk about this album forever with songs like Teenagers, This Is How I Disappear, Famous Last Words, and more, I feel like this album is overdone and talked about enough because it is so loved and cherished by the community that have amassed over the years, and I think I would just rehash a lot of what has been said, as if I haven't already. There's a ton of misconceptions about this group's work so far, and they intended to dispel all misconceptions with this third album, which was an unabashed, old-fashioned concept album, complete with characters wandering through a narrative that concerns very big themes like death. My Chemical Romance shares a love of classic metal that manifests itself in both pummeling riffs and soaring guitar solos. Plus, they also have a flair for melody, two things that give their solipsistic rock muscle. If MCR didn't have these talents, the Black Parade would have collapsed in a pile of drama club cliches, sophomoric self-pity, and an adolescent's obsession with death. Yet, they managed to skirt such a disaster, even if they flirt with it shamelessly. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the album is a triumph. For one, the Black Parade plays a lot straighter than it reads. Sure, it has the marching bands, dubbed choirs, radio play theatrics, and Liza Minnelli cameos, a list that makes the album sound like a wild rock opera, but all of that winds up being window dressing to music that often isn't far removed from what the bands had done before. Despite all these fancy accoutrements, they're still a modern emo punk band, which means for all of the emotion poured out in their ever-earnest lead singer, their little grit in their sound, which to me isn't a bad thing. It was nearly perfect and appealed to a wide audience, but I still vibe with the visuals of Three Cheers a little more, as it was more grim rather than semi-serious and tuneful. Finally, I can talk about the last album released in 2010, Danger Days, The True Lives of the Fabulous Killjoys. Swapping gothic pomp for metallic power pop, My Chemical Romance may streamline their excesses on Danger Days, but they by no means excise their indulgences. There's a story woven within this album about Gerard's side hustle of comic writing. Going through the album chronologically is one of the best parts of this tracklist, and I can't help but applaud a lot of the writing within it. Bouncing off of that, the first song I'd like to mention is Na Na Na. The protagonists, known as the Killjoys, are bent on rebelling against the oppressive forces in their world. The song is related to this concept of rebellion, as the chorus and bridge lines express the idea of rising up and making a change even if it means taking risks, going against the status quo, and facing opposition. It is a call to arms song with no fear. It is delivered and written blunt and directly, given the honesty Gerard has been giving himself about his past writing. I love the overall tune of the song with the fierce instrumental and quick delivery. It's meshed together well with the overarching story that has come with the rest of the album and the next song, Bulletproof Heart, which explores themes of rebellion, escape, and the desire to break free from societal expectations and pressures. The line, "I got a bulletproof heart, you got a hollow point smile," reflects the contrasting nature of these two characters. The protagonist's heart is resilient and unbreakable, while the other person's smile is superficial and deceitful. While a little bit of a downer, in my opinion, lyrically, the whole breaking free as a topic thing is an upbeat track and allows room for more growth as the character develops through this story. What I don't like about it is that it is so quick in terms of actual movement. While it is a 5-minute track, it just blazes past all of the fun aspects of this character. I'm also not saying the writing is bad here either, but I feel like we could change the second verse a little bit at the beginning and get more into the reason for this rebellion other than this person's personal connections back home. The final song I wanted to comment on was Party Poison. The title comes from the character by the same name portrayed in the music videos. It is a song about nonconformity and just living life. The post-chorus suggests that conforming to societal norms and living a mundane life will ultimately lead to self-destruction. The bridge is a call to action, suggesting that partying is an unconventional way to be transformative and powerful. There is no emo bloodletting, no expressionist confrontations with death, just exaggerated adolescent anthems and calls to rebellion. Just enough drama so this could be called cathartic by anyone. It's just crystallized fun, the purest rush MCR has ever delivered. With all that being said though, I would like to move into the rankings of the album. This will be on a best to worst scale, taking lyrical content, music composition, and vocal capabilities into account. Starting with 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge at number 1, number 2 is The Black Parade, number 3 is I Brought You My Bullets, and number 4 is Danger Days. The sole reason I believe the debut is over Danger Days is because of the writing style. You can tell it has immensely shifted and is obviously more story-driven in Danger Days, which is amazing in its own right, but I didn't nearly enjoy it as much as the hardcore and immersive environment that the debut projected. As an artist, I think MCR has nearly revolutionized the post-hardcore and pop-punk genres, alongside other bands like Fall Out Boy, Panic at the Disco, and other famous groups like this within the emo and scene world. And with that, I think I'll leave the video there. If you enjoyed it, leave a like and comment on who I should cover next. And until next time, bye guys.